Welcome to another edition of Should You Read. Today we are doing Demon Slayer. Um, let's find out if this is good or not.
Okay, so the story of Demon Slayer, it's about Tanjiro Kamado, just a young boy. I don't know his age or anything like that, but his family, they live in a village like ancient Japan, I guess. One day he decides to go get water or go to another village or something like that, and then when he comes back, his family was attacked by demons, and pretty much his entire family is killed except for his sister. Um, and his sister is still alive, and she actually turns into a demon, and she then pretty much decides to attack him, and he is saved by a demon slayer. And after that happens, they realize that she is not a typical demon, and that kind of sets him off on a journey to find the demon slayer corpse and to find a way to turn his sister back into a human. Um, Obviously, along the way, there's training and fighting various different like regular demons and different levels of demons. And eventually, it gets to a point where they fight the master of demons, Muzan. Um, and honestly, that's pretty much it. It was relatively short in terms of shonen, like I guess the big shonen that we're used to. Um, and just story wise, I would say that like every other shonen is pretty straightforward. Nothing too crazy about it. Doesn't get into in depth with the characters, in my opinion. Um, the powers themselves aren't very unique. It's even found out. We even like found out later that all the powers that we do see in the show are all actually imaginary. So none of that shit is real. It's just niggas with swords fighting. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about the story?
Um, I don't know. To me, what I would say is the story. Like, I agree with you. I felt pretty finite. Like, if it wasn't for like the major success of the anime, I didn't really see how they were going to be able to stretch it. It seemed like it was going to end how it was gonna end. My thing is just like as far as maybe like the power system goes, I felt like for a shonen, it seemed more about the story than it did about like the power system. I felt like they just started adding a bunch of things at the end to kind of like get to spoiler alert, I guess, get to like defeating Muzan. But in the beginning, I don't know. It just never gave me like the Naruto vibes where you're like, oh, I wonder what other ninjutsus are out there, stuff like that. You kind of felt like that for like the swordsmanship styles, but it never just got better than that. They all seem to
Mm-hmm.
have like five or six moves, and you would only usually see like two or three of them. Like you, like,
Yeah.
oh, dude has a rock style, cool, but I only got to see like him use two forms of that rock style. I wish there was more development there.
And I guess that comes with um, shonen like this where it's just swordsmanship. I guess
Yeah,
there's some much different ways you can like differentiate the powers. I mean, at the end of the day, especially since he said it's not really actual powers, it's just them fighting with swords.
yeah,
It can't be like a Naruto where like they have a wide spectrum of different powers, and I think that also then leads to the world building not being as it should. Like you said, I mean, you've never like wondered, oh, wonder what niggas in this other village doing, or wonder if like what they doing in some other location aside, or the other demon slayer like groups out there, or the other demon like groups out there. Like I never really stopped to really think about it until the end, at least. Until we wondered
yeah.
what's going to happen. But throughout the series, I never once thought about it at all.
All right.
And I would say another thing that kind of throws me off about the whole story of it is the history of everything. For example, how the demons really came to be. Yes, we know about how Muzan became a demon. Um, Spoiler, potentially, but we don't know
Yeah.
about how you know um, how the whole thing of him becoming a demon originated. Like how somebody was able to find some way to make other people into this ultimate demon that could transform other folks into demons. But we don't get that bit of history, and we don't learn how a lot of these other types of breeders came to be. So it's like we basically learned about this one main breather, and then he taught other people his technique, but somehow they all branched off into their own thing, and they don't really give us a whole lot of detail on the history of all of these people. So I guess that's also why we end up not wanting to find out about these other groups of types of breathers and so forth, and kind of takes away a bit from the story.
Yeah, and I felt like, just to double back on your point about the history, I think like was like just a fault of the author, because I felt like he laid a lot of great history points that could have like developed the story into more of a longer running series, but he like never developed them. So it was like, for example, Zenitsu's master, Tanjiro's swordsmanship master, like basically they're all have some level of clout or whatever respect in terms of like the Demon Slayer corpse generation, and they were able to be Demon Slayers up to a certain point of retirement, basically. But it's like none of that's ever explored really. You just kind of like talk about it, but I go, okay, so what was the challenges that they faced? You know what I'm saying? What types of improvements did they put on the water style? Did they add like a new form to the water style? Is that why they're so cloudy in terms of this breathing technique, or was it something else? But it's like they were all former pillars, so I'm like, they're all people of some clout. But the question is, like, Muzan's been around for hundreds of years, but it just felt like all of that hundreds of years really didn't matter. It just mattered like that very first breather that almost killed him, spoiler alert, and then Tanjiro now. Like those seem to be the only two generations that matter. But I was like, there's so many other generations in between. The forms themselves, even with all of these hundreds of years of like development, seem to still be fairly new, right? Only five like forms in this sword style after like 100 years of development. Things don't add up. And then there's people creating new ones like Kano, I think her name is, the insect chick. She just made up a style, insect breathing, and it just goes like there's a lot of world building potential there, but it just never gets touched on. Like the author sticks very closely to like this Tanjiro, Nezuko, Muzan intertwined storyline, like throughout the series.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's just like you said, the potential is there. He just never like decides to flush it out. I don't know if there was a rush or what. You would think that he would like stretch it out and then try to build that shit out, especially if it's one of the most popular new shonen out there. But I guess not. Shit.
Yeah, like, so for example, one of the things that I like about Toriko is you don't only follow Toriko throughout the story. They branch off into these other characters and show how they develop their new abilities and all of that. And you just don't really get that here. You're just mainly following Tanjiro, and people decide to work with him during the meantime. Yeah, you get to see them develop a little bit, but then they're just gone. And you kind of miss out on that opportunity when you leave that out.
All right. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't even know what else I could potentially add on the story. Like, I would say, like, there is going to be, for the people watching this that watched the first season of the anime, I don't think the story is going to change much. So I felt like there's not going to be much of a difference between the two experiences. The key to the story difference there, I think, between like why I don't appreciate it so much in the manga versus like when I watched it. I ended up watching the first season twice, but when I watched the first season twice in the anime, I think you just get more of an appreciation for the story, or really the danger they experience, because of all the little elements in the anime, like the background music, the art style, like the dark tone that it's set in. I feel like that gives you more of a like where you can appreciate the, I guess, singularity of the story. I don't know what word I'm looking for there, but like how it's just focused on Tanjiro and Nezuko mostly. You can appreciate that more in the anime than I feel like you do in the manga. And especially this being like a shonen series, like just the way the story is told strikes me as one of those things, like a Sword Art Online, that is really like another genre, but there's just enough action in it that people think it's a shonen. Because I feel like the way this story is told, it's just like, I don't think any shonen anime or manga would tell the story this way if they built a world like Demon Slayer. it just feels like you spend way more. I just can't think of a series where they spent so much time focusing on that like storyline. Even though like Naruto's goal was to become Hokage, it's like you still spent the time building the power structure in the world. It's like none of that time is spent on Demon Slayer at all, which makes me think it's really written for another genre, but just got like shown in popularity because of like that anime in action. But
Yeah, I actually agree with that 100%. It doesn't fit within the typical scheme of especially like Shonen Jump stuff. It just doesn't at all.
yeah,
And I don't know I'm not well versed on the different like categories. I don't know what it would fit in, but it does seem like the author was just trying to do something a little different.
yeah. Any other points on the story?
And with that,
sorry.
I was going to say, with that in mind, I feel like he did a very great job hooking people in with the way that the story started off. The only difference is if you would be impressed as you continue to go on with it. So,
yeah. I mean, my thing about it is like, I wonder if it would catch me as much in the if I started the manga, because to me, anime wise, it caught me because of, and I wouldn't even say caught me, but I was interested because of the animation. But like when you look at the same fight scenes, at least as I kept reading in manga post the season ending, like when you look at fights with like the Flame Pillar, or fights with like that happened at the end, or Gyu, or anybody that's fighting, it just looks like a bunch of splashing or fire or flames or whatever. It doesn't have any real flow to it. Like, I don't know if you guys experienced that, but I just don't. I wouldn't say the animation fight versus the manga fight are anywhere close to each other. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't seem on par at all. So I feel like I don't know if it would catch me if I read the manga first.
Yeah, and I think that's why it didn't have any kind of hype, I think, until the anime popped up. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't remember there being like a really big hype until the anime popped up anyway.
Yeah, I didn't hear anyone talk about it before the anime.
Like some things have hype before the anime pop up, but I don't think that was the case for them.
Right.
Kind of makes you wonder where the hype came for them to actually decide to make it into an anime. Or did somebody just have a bunch of money in the pocket and say, "Pump it, go ahead and start the studio up and get it cracking"?
But I think
always wondered that.
Anime though, I think if it's a Shonen Jump, I think they pretty much get an anime eventually. Like I don't think there's, especially like if you like, I may not have been hyped, but there were people reading it. You know, I mean, so I don't think there was any reason why they wouldn't have gotten an anime. I feel like if you get to like 100 chapters in Shonen Jump, you probably gonna get an anime.
I mean, that is true. So yeah, I mean, it had some type of following before then.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the same thing with Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, I was pretty confident that was going to catch an anime because of the hype surrounding just the manga, but also like it touched 100 chapters. I think once you touch 100 chapters, if you don't get an anime at that point, like Shonen doesn't fuck with you for some reason. But yeah you're pretty much on that path.
They even drop shit. Like they drop anime, manga all the time. If like it doesn't have traction, I believe. So
yeah,
that's 100. I guess it might be like, I don't know the number is, but there's a certain number. I'm sure that there's like a point where they feel like, oh, you kind of made it. You get your anime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So let's move on to some of the Demon Slayer characters. I felt like as far as Demon Slayer goes, its strength here actually is the characters. I think it shows way more in the anime, just because as far as the anime goes, the character designs are beautiful. Like you really can appreciate them. But I would say like as far as series that I've read recently or over time, I probably don't remember as many characters' names as I probably do in Demon Slayer, which I think to me is telling that at least there is some sort, I wouldn't even say development, but just a lot of screen time. Because I don't think Demon Slayer really developed any characters besides maybe Tanjiro for sure. I don't think Nezuko at all, because I feel like, I guess spoiler alert, she was a demon most of the time, so she was mostly just doing like cutesy things in the background.
I mean,
Zenitsu, yeah, I would say Zenitsu had some sort of development. Inosuke maybe, but I would also argue probably not really. So I don't even think any of the characters got really developed. I just think they gave a lot of screen time to the other characters, and then you would get to learn about the pillars, through like Tanjiro going on missions with them. So I don't even say it's development. It's just like they would just go like, okay, Tanjiro spent like the first arc once he got past all the stuff and the pillars get introduced was him spending time with the Flame Pillar, understanding the Flame Pillar's backstory. I don't consider that character development. I just feel like that's just character introduction and backstory. Same thing with all of the other pillars he spent like missions with. So, but I do think that the characters, at least in terms of the series, are probably the strong point.
So you're saying the writing of the characters themselves, you think is a strong point?
I don't think the writing is. I think maybe it is the writing. But I think if you were talking to anime, the characters are important because their designs are very creative, and the powers are probably going to look amazing. So I wouldn't even say it's their backstory. To me, I think the Demon Slayer story, when it comes to the characters, is the same exact formula. No matter who the character is, there's going to be some dark backstory as to why they are, who they are, and why they behave, how they behave. So I don't feel like any of that was original. It was more just, I think, appreciating their style. Really, I liked that part of it, the variety of swordsmanship styles, and the fact that some of them were able to create it more than I cared about their backstory. Like the what's his face was very interesting. The Wind Pillar's younger brother, I thought that was dope. Also, another plot point that the author chose not to explore. It's like, how the fuck did this dude develop the ability? Spoiler alert: to eat demons.
Facts.
Like, it was just like you could definitely explore how that worked, but it was just like, nope, he has that. So I was like, all right, well, okay.
Yeah, so shit like that is why I would say I don't think the characters were very good at all. I mean, there's just so many missed opportunities that he could have capitalized on. That's one example. And I think some of the characters that were highlighted more were some of the pillars. Not the pillars. Sorry. What are the demons called?
Oh, the
upper moon.
demons,
I think some of the upper moon. Had better like backstories than most of the pillars. Most of the characters, even the main three: Tanjiro, Inosuke, Zenitsu. I still don't really know anything about Inosuke. Like I really don't. Zenitsu, like he never like had any growth at all. I think even at the end, he still was the same character, you know. And the other characters are very memorable. I don't know if you said you remember names, but I don't remember names. I might remember but I don't even think I ever knew their names. I might know the pillar, like they're like the Wind Pillar or something like that, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I think it also goes back to just like a fleeting, like you said, you meet them one chapter and then 2 chapters later, that's it. They're done. So,
I mean, the only person I would say, which I think was also really weird, it seemed like the author kind of wanted to make him the main character a little bit, was Giyu. I thought that part, like his storyline in the entire story, was pretty weird because it's like he wasn't really a part of the main group, but then like by the end of the series, you almost felt like he was up there with the main characters with that whole backstory about the first mission and how he's basically kind of grown to overcome this like self-worth issue he has where he doesn't feel like he really deserves the clout that he's gotten.
Yeah.
I just go like, oh, okay, that was like a weird toss in there. It almost made him feel like the main character. But
no, I
totally
have a little more highlight than every other. At least every other pillar for sure.
I totally agree though that none of the characters on the human side had any depth. I would say they had depth in terms of like they had a horrible backstory maybe, but it was really just used to trigger an explanation of their behaviors or attitudes in the story, right? Like it was like, oh, the reason why Wind Pillar is always mad is because his backstory explains why he's mad all the time. You know what I'm saying? It was just shit like that, but it wasn't anything that really drove the characters forward.
Yeah,
they were just there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's the part that bothers me. That's the part that bothers me about the demon side, because I felt like the author kept telling the story as if you were supposed to have some sort of sympathy for the demons, but then at the end of it, they always just get killed. Like that was it. It was just like, it wasn't like, oh, they try to come to the only person who got the saving grace of like, maybe we'll let you survive is Nezuko. She's the only demon I felt like, and maybe Tamio, but those were the only demons I felt like got the sympathy of like, oh, I don't care if you had a dark past. Like, let's try to heal you into something better. But all these other demons who may have wanted to make these turns or maybe felt bad about what they felt they had to do, that was just like, okay, well, now that we know that, I'm still killing you anyways, kind of thing.
Well, the thing is also, you gotta also admit that Muzan was probably also the only demon who didn't have some type of tragic backstory where you would want to feel sorry for him.
Yep, that is one character to bring up. That is one character to bring up as one of the worst villains I would say I've ever experienced.
Oh, who?
Muzan.
Who'd you say?
Muzan.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's one of the worst final villains I've ever experienced. Like, I think as far as his backstory, as far as like his character development or villain development, it was all trash. Like, he didn't have a good final plan to me. He seemed like a lackey villain. Like, his goals, his ambitions all seemed like things of a lackey, a villain, more the major protagonist or antagonist of the story. So yeah, he's up there for me as far as worst villains go.
I agree. He's literally like if somebody's playing a fucking tower defense game and they're just spamming the buttons to make more and more of the towers come up to try to fight whoever's trying to come up to your area. That's literally all he is.
Right.
I think Muzan suffers from the same thing every other character does, and it's worse because he's the main villain. It's just that, like, he wasn't like we never went into his story really. I mean, at the end we got like his fight against like the original like Sunbreather and all that, but to me I still don't really understand like his like what was his goal fully. I really don't get it.
Exactly.
He wanted to be out. I think he wanted to live forever. But he didn't like the whole darkness part of the living forever. So to me, it sounded like the completion of his goal or his true happiness would have been once he was able to also be out in the sun and be immortal. But I just go like, what value does that add? Like, let's say he did end up getting that, and now he was a demon that could be out in the sun, and he's just OP for no reason. What happens?
And it doesn't make sense like to me why what made him like evil. Like yes, just like. There's no reason. Why does him wanting to walk in the sun immediately turn to him wanting to be evil?
Right. It's just like this, like because even if we look at some of the other ones, like Aizen for Bleach, even like his goal at the end was like, oh, I just want to be this powerful butterfly. That's when it started to get stupid. It was like, oh, why did you want that? Even Madara, who I don't really like his goal, but I felt like it made more sense, was still like this twisted good goal. I want to put everybody in this infinite dream so everybody could be happy then. Like, that's it. Fuck it. So I just felt like there was nothing past, oh, you can walk in the sun now. It's just, there was nothing past that. Like, what happens after that? You just go live a happy life now, or what? Like,
yeah.
There was no method to the madness, I guess. That's what it was. It was just like, these demons have been, I'm like, for hundreds of years, you've been scheming this. Like, basically winning, it seems like, because, spoiler alert, like, dude doesn't win until the end. He doesn't die till the end. So I'm like, all these hundreds of years, right? Demon Slayers being able to go into retirement. You're out here fighting them. And I would think if they go into retirement, that's like essentially them saying they gave up the fight. So I just don't see how what was the win there? Like, they were half the time they were just trying to figure out who you were. Like, the beginning, they finally found out like, oh, dude has met him. And that was like a big thing. So I'm like, people didn't even know where you was, but you are only able to partially take over the world. Like, I didn't get it.
And let's be real, man. The first time we saw him, the man was simply chilling with we'll call his family. We're still not sure if that was really his family, really his kid and wife or whatever. They might have been hypnotized for all we know. But it seemed like the man was just chilling. Like, he wasn't even trying to actually do anything. Just out here just living life.
Thanks.
And having his own demons in the background just killing niggas for fun. So it's like, okay, I can see if you were at least trying to turn everybody into a demon so everybody can try to, grow into this next evolution of creatures or whatever to fight some type of to be able to defend yourself against like whatever creatures might be trying to come to the planet or something. But no, he was just chilling. He was like, fuck it, I just want to chill for the rest of my life. And I'm just going to kill whoever I can to make that happen. That's pretty bland, I would say, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, are there any other characters y'all wanted to highlight or I guess disrespect?
um,
So we talking about Nezuko at all? Really? I mean, I,
we no, not she didn't get her spotlight yet. We've
I
mentioned
think
her.
she's also one of the biggest, what's the word? Flaws maybe of the show. Like her character,
disappointments.
yeah, disappointments also. I mean, even like when they hyped her up as being like so strong, and nothing at all came of it. Like when she was fighting with like one of the upper moons, but
Yeah, the threat demon.
yeah, but then no, not even the thread one. It was another one she was fighting. I think I forgot. She had like awakened her like some power, and then she was fighting this demon, and then that was it. Nothing else came of that. It
Yeah.
was just interesting how they like treated her character the entire time. She didn't even need to be there. If she was not there, you would like there was no point to her existing. Like she could have Tanjiro could have just left her like at home the entire time, and nothing. I don't think anything in the story would have been changed, except the end maybe where like she saved him or something. But anyone
Yeah.
could have done
I
that.
mean, she would have got killed by the threat demon. Tanjiro would have got killed by
Yep.
the threat demon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
no,
would
I
say.
totally agree though. She just seems like she was there for like the kawaii cuteness thing,
Mm-hmm.
because that's all I hear people who talk about her anyways. Just oh, she's so cute, like. But I'm like, she said zero words throughout the series until I guess maybe the end. And as far as like value, it's like yeah, she could throw some hands, so I do agree that she might have helped Tanjiro here and there. But as far as like what she means to the story, like nothing. Like I would say there's no I don't get like if people thought there was a woman empowerment message there, I would say that it sounds like you should just keep quiet and stay in the background. Like that's what Nezuko kind of did
Yeah.
basically. Like compared to other female like main characters, Uraka, Erza, like way more interesting to me. Even Sakura, way more interesting to me than Nezuko.
Definitely.
Yeah, I feel like she was just a plot device for them to be able to find a way to, I guess, cure people from being a demon. Because I believe
Facts.
Tamayo used like her cells in order to give them the way to actually be able to defeat Muzan. And that seemed like it was just complete bullshit. Like, given that, yes, she was able to still somehow control herself while being a demon to fight other demons, to work with the humans, you would think, okay, they're eventually going to be able to use what she has in order to help other demons, be able to fight whatever that evil desire of theirs is to I guess live like regular demons slash humans. But no, they just left that completely, left that out in the darkness and just said, all right, you're going to be in this box and we're just going to use your cells. They could have just killed her at that point
Right.
because fuck it. Take her cells, kill it, and now they can go defeat Muzan. Like, yeah, useless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
mean
that's. Go ahead.
I think the only character that we probably need to put respect on, I guess, because that was, I guess, one sort of highlight was Tamio. We brought her up, but I think as far as like whatever character development really means in Demon Slayer, she's probably one of ones that were, I guess, were okay to good character in the show. Like, and it's really more just because of her feats. Like, probably without her, I don't think they would have defeated Muzan. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yep. I would say she was probably the MVP of the whole show, even over
yeah,
Tanjiro.
I think she took Tanjiro's unrealistic goals and made them tangible. Like if he never met Tamio, I would feel like he's a full goof troop for like this whole like oh Nezuko's just gonna follow me around and she's not gonna ever want to eat humans XYZ. I felt like nothing would she would never have become be saved basically if it wasn't
Right.
for late Tamio.
Exactly. And they definitely should have went a bit more into her life story for
Oh, 100%.
for the for this whole thing because I feel like she would have also had a lot of interesting stuff going on because I'm pretty sure she was probably also fighting hella demons in the background and trying to find cures and shit like that and dealing with other humans while trying to act like you're a human on a regular basis. I feel like her storyline would have been at least as interesting as what we got from following Tanjiro. It would have had a lot more variety. So let's go on. Let's get into the hype section of the story. This is the portion where we talk about how excited you felt for, I guess you could say, reading the following chapters. How much of a level of enjoyment you got from watching either the scenes within the anime or reading the parts within the manga, and compare it to how much hype was put onto it from the fan base overall. So I'll start by saying that this show was definitely overhyped to the max.
100%.
Like with the amount of people that were going around rocking Tanjiro's outfit and going over here fucking talking about all of these sword techniques and saying, oh yeah, you should definitely watch it. You should definitely watch it. You get into it, yeah, you know, the animation is good. You can give it that. But for the most part, everything else is either just okay or it's subpar. It's definitely not deserving in all the hype that people give for it. And especially if you get into the manga and go to at the very end, you'll be in for a huge amount of disappointment. But we'll talk about that later.
I would say the COVID-19 probably hit for some other reasons, and I mean, you know, I just think that if we were going to conventions this year, we would see a ton of Demon Slayer cosplay, and that's not happening because of all this COVID stuff. So I don't know if that's like a side about Demon Slayer's worthiness, but there you go. I'll just leave it at that. But as far as like fan base hype, definitely fan base has the show. Without the fan base, probably could have gotten, whenever we get into the recommendation, a more respectable rating for what it did. But the fan base had to take it to levels to where it needs to be disrespected in order to like emphasize the fact that it's not as great as people say. That's how I feel like I'm seeing it now. So my personal hype, like watching the anime, let's just even start with the anime because that's where I think most of the hype comes from. It took me a while to actually get into it. Watching the first few episodes, I don't think it was anything great or special. And even seeing the animation, the character designs, blah, 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 like none of that really did anything for me, I would say, until the Thread Demon. Like when they ran up on the Thread Demon and the pillars got introduced, and I got to see like the insect chick do some stuff. I got to see Zenitsu do some stuff. And I got to see Giyu do some stuff. That's when I think I was like, oh, okay, I appreciate this a bit more. But that's like it's a while before that happens. Now, if we jump to the manga, like it just went downhill from there. Like reading more chapters past that, getting introduced to more characters. Sure, there was interesting plot points, some decent fights, but I would say I could slowly start to feel the hype go down after the build up to like the final fight with Muzan. I would say after they fought like most of the upper moons in that battle, the hype started to go down slowly but surely. It felt like most of the power or like the interesting battles were the upper moons. Like I liked knowing about their backstory. I like seeing their abilities, and I like seeing the heroes overcome those demons. But past that, like once they started getting to the final fights with Muzan, it was just like it just felt like it was dragging. I felt like we probably could have shaved the last 20 to 30 chapters off of Demon Slayer and made that Muzan fight one chapter and the ending another chapter. But that's me. I think the audience overhypes it. My personal hype is like, I would say this is a very average series, if not below average, as far as shonen goes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, in regards to hype, and I'm talking manga only. Like anime, to me, that's a completely different case. And if someone likes it, like you said, music and everything can do a lot of shit. I mean, so I can't speak to that. But just regarding the manga, I never really. I probably felt like hype maybe like once when I think the Fire Pillar first showed up, and then that was a disappointment. And I think since then there hasn't really been any hype for me. I don't know. It's not. I'm not saying it's the worst series in the world. But it's like you said, it's like an average series that definitely does not deserve anywhere near the hype that it gets. When there are a lot of series out that are better than it that doesn't have the hype it has right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say the only time I actually felt hype was when they went against the Upper Moons. Everything else within the story, well, other than the fight against Muzan, because that whole thing was just trash. Everything else, I was just like, oh, okay, it's decent. This is an average story. I'm just going along with emotions, and then it, for me, gets to the part where they're fighting the Upper Moons, and I'm like, oh shit, these fights are decent as hell. And then as soon as that ends, it just completely drops. So to be overall average, I wouldn't say that's anything to go around saying, yo, you gotta watch that shit. Oh, you gotta read that shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we're good to go into the recommendation now. So, the question for all of us is, what's your overall rating for Demon Slayer? And I guess you can also add, would you recommend someone read the series? You can also separate it by anime too, if you feel like it's that big of a distinction.
I'd give it like the overall series like a decent minus. Like you said, it's kind of average, and then the ending probably makes it dip below average. So I'd say overall a decent minus. But even then, I would still say you should read it. I'm not gonna say make it a priority or anything. If you got some time, it's not many chapters. It's not a long series, so I mean you can just read it just to say you read it. Just to shit on it if you want. But overall, it's not that good. Like I said, it's not that bad to where I'm saying no, you should definitely never read it. It's just that if you do read it, I don't want you to go in thinking that it's going to be the greatest thing ever created. Just know that it's a decent minus. That's what it is, and that's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say it's probably overall a decent for me. I would say the whole story was, just like I was saying earlier, it's an average story going all the way up until you get to those this one portion where you're fighting against Upper Moon. I guess you could say until the last arc, and then that's when it gets, I would say, decent as hell for a little bit, and then it just completely drops down to trash, Bleach level even. And yes, would I recommend somebody to read it? Well, if you're into combats, if you're into combats and if you're into the emotional feels of, oh, I feel sorry for this person and all of that, yeah, I think you would enjoy it. If you're into seeing something with beautiful colors flying all over the place, yeah, go ahead and go check out the anime. You'll enjoy that bit. But if you're looking for a whole lot of world building and a lot of getting in depth with the characters and all of that, yeah, you're going to be wasting your time with this one. So it's definitely not a show for everybody, but I would still recommend it to a good amount of people just to have something under your belt.
Yeah. For me, I think I'm gonna separate anime and manga out because I think the ratings are significant for me. So for manga, I would give this a decent trash plus. I feel like I have to put a lot of weight on wasted potential here, just because I think the series is good, but like the anime, well, sorry, I don't think the series is good, but I think like the anime is decent. But when you transfer the lack of fight, because with the anime, the fights are really the meat and the key here. But when you translate those to the manga, you gotta like subtract like 5 or 10 points. Like you're not going to be able to appreciate them in the same way, especially with the type of fights that goes on in Demon Slayer, where it's just like a lot of big shit, a lot of colors, and just like flowing stuff that doesn't translate very well, I think, to the manga. So you're not getting anything from the fights the way you do in the anime in terms of Demon Slayer. It's not going to be anything different than any other action manga you read. So now I go with the wasted development in terms of like the plot, the wasted potential in terms of like the plot and the characters. I felt like I have to give it like a decent trash. Reading Promised Neverland now, knowing that is low tier, I couldn't give it a trash or a Bleach. I don't think the ending was like the worst ending I've ever seen. I don't think the story itself was like the worst story I've ever seen. I didn't find myself hating reading it. I just found myself very apathetic to reading chapters at worst. I was just kind of like getting through it in the worst case. So for me, I would give the manga a decent trash plus because of that wasted potential. And the anime, I would actually give a decent because I think regardless of how trash all the other pieces are to me, the animation in that anime will be able to keep someone watching till the end. The amount of budget and money that they're spending towards that show. So if I was to recommend it to someone, I would tell them like, don't even bother reading the manga. Don't waste your time. You're not going to even like the need that I got to read the manga. I like in retrospect, I feel like the urge to jump to that is not worth it. Like I would say, just casually enjoy it with the rest of the anime fans as it comes out season to season. I think you'll have a much better experience than if you try to go like, yeah, I'm just gonna read the manga to the end. Just not, just not enjoyable. You're losing all of the pieces that make the anime special going to the manga, and the story is not making up for it. So I would say it's a recommend for the anime only. I would say is don't waste your time at all when it comes to the manga.
Now, a question for you guys: would you guys watch the end as an anime where they fight Muzan again?
I would, because I think they could condense that down into a couple of episodes. One, and two, I think they can make it look maybe better than it did in the manga. Plus, I personally feel like if the community's opinion on this manga is similar to ours, they will likely make some changes to the end.
I probably wouldn't watch it. I mean, I wouldn't watch the episode for sure. I mean, if a clip on YouTube or something like that popped up, or if we're gonna talk about it, yeah, I'd watch it. But I wouldn't go looking for it. But I do think the anime is like how you said you only recommend the anime. The fucked up part is that I think if the anime is good, that leads people to go watch the manga. I read the manga. I feel like because they're thinking like, obviously, the anime's gonna stop before it ends. They're gonna think, oh, I gotta keep going. Well, and then that's when they realize like, oh, this shit isn't really that good.
No,
this
sir.
Is all animation. So,
no, sir. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is on that. So, what was your answer to that question? Would you watch it, the final episodes?
Who, me?
I think I'm more.
Yeah. I meant Gramps. I don't know.
I think I'm more along the lines of where Deuce is with it. I would check out just the fighting portion of it just to see how the animations look, but I'm not going to watch like whole episodes of seeing them talking and all that shit because we already know that all of that was complete. As I'll just check it out for the animations just to see how all of the different powers look while they're trying to fight against Muzan. What those fucking things, those tendrils or whatever coming out of his back look like in animation. But other than that, no, I'm not going through the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think just one caveat to the audience or whoever's listening is like, I think for Demon Slayer, maybe if you look through it through like a different lens, like more of a drama lens and less action focused, it might change your rating of it. But to me, I'm looking through it through like a strictly shonen to seinen, like adult manga lens, and to me that like the storytelling pieces and how everything comes together in there is just not one. It's not what I've seen, but that's not a bad thing. It's just that it's not executed well or to where it can be enjoyable. That's the key there for me.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
All right, well, that's it. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like. Also, share your thoughts on Demon Slayer if you finished the manga or if you're still watching that anime in the comments below. And we'll catch you in the next Should You Read / Should You Watch video.
Subscribe.
Peace.
Peace.